So, we want to welcome our first speaker, Peter Arvai from Prezi. He just flew in from San Francisco, and my expectations on his presentations are sky high, since he's revolutionizing the presentation tools.
And thank you for that very nice introduction. Now I have very high standards to meet as well. And thank you for organizing this really nice day for all of us to exchange ideas between entrepreneurs. I think that this is a great thing for us all. And it's certainly something that I would have wanted to have when I studied at university. Somehow I never managed to do this thing. Let me begin my talk by congratulating all of you who are here, because I think that the career path that you're interested in by being here is probably one of the most rewarding career paths that you can take. And of course, when I say such a thing, you might wonder, am I only talking about those 1 in 1,000 that make it big? The Steve Jobses in the world? I'm not. I'm neither talking about the regular idea of an entrepreneur, owning a business, being a CEO, selling a company, or having success after success. Because I believe that entrepreneurship exists everywhere, actually. And I think that entrepreneurship has lots more to do with the great stories that we're used to seeing in and my great presentation didn't work. Let's see. For some reason, the clicker stopped working. Okay, I'm going to present from the computer instead. So, I think entrepreneurship has much more to do with great stories. And these great stories are the stories that we're familiar with from the movies, from TV, or even from books. It's about anger, it's about jealousy, it's about hope, love, friendship, despair, all of these emotions that many people expect to experience with their family and friends, entrepreneurs bring into their work. Every day they go through highs and lows, and I think this is the definition of an entrepreneur for me. So, if you're passionate about your work, I think you're an entrepreneur. And why do you need to be passionate? Well, I think entrepreneurs make their work personal. If you don't make your work personal, then you don't have the stamina to stand up for all those rejections as you meet as an entrepreneur. This is some of the things that we heard just now. If you don't make your work personal, you minimize the risk to look foolish in front of other people, but you also minimize your opportunity to do something extraordinary. If you don't make your work personal, then you will never be able to really persuade people to think really differently about your ideas. So, I don't know what kind of work makes you get personally involved. But I thought I will tell you a little bit about the work that I've been doing and what made me get personally involved in the projects that I've been working on. And hopefully this can give you a few ideas on how to think about your projects. I was born and raised in a small city in Karlskoga, in Sweden, which is called Karlskoga. And I was actually born by immigrant parents as well. And this environment didn't really encourage me to think about entrepreneurship. In fact, when I think about it now, I didn't hear the word entrepreneurship, I believe, until I started university. Nevertheless, when I look back, I could see that there were projects I was passionate about. I'll give you an example. One of the things that I learned in Karlskoga was that Japan was just an impossible country to understand. The way to understand Japan, to the extent that we could, was through quirky stories. And these stories flourish still today. This is actually a picture that I took out of Dagens Nyheter, Sweden's largest newspaper, last week. This is a story about Japan, and this is about a washing machine for dogs. And I think this says something about our view of Japan, and it was certainly the view of Japan growing up in Karlskoga. But having been raised by immigrant parents in Sweden, I knew that there could be better ways of understanding this culture, and I really set out to learn more. And I got passionate about this topic and convinced my high school to give their first ever Japanese lessons, which was a great thing because I got to have a nice introduction to Japan, which then became an introduction to Asia, and I ended up spending several years in different countries in that region. Now, the great thing with challenging yourself to learn about something that seems a little bit distant is that you tend to meet other people that are interested in same kind of challenges. And this brings me to my first lesson about entrepreneurship. If I had not gone and worked in Japan, I would have never met the co-founders of my first big entrepreneurial project, Onboard. And in fact, when I look back at all of my entrepreneurial projects, I never met the people that I worked with for the purpose of that project. I met them in other circumstances. So if you guys have a dream now that you want to fulfill as an entrepreneur, I bet you that you already know several of the people that can help you to realize your dreams. All you have to do is open your eyes to it and start talking about it. So first lesson, treasure the people that surround you. My project with Onboard brings me to my second lesson about entrepreneurship. Sometimes important projects are born from important events in life. With Onboard, this was the case for me. I started working with Onboard because my mother was ill for several years in her life, and I ended up having to take a lot of responsibility for her illness. I'm the only child in my family, and I can tell you that what I saw, what she was going through, wasn't a pretty picture. And as I was learning more and more about the Swedish healthcare system, I also found out that, when you talk to doctors and nurses, they certainly knew which doctors to go to if they had a health issue. It really, really annoyed me that this information was privileged to those insiders, especially in a society that we want to see as very transparent. So, as I was thinking about this and then I was talking to the co-founders of Onboard about this, we actually realized that we could do something about it. Fortunately for all of us, there is a lot of data about the performance of Swedish healthcare providers, and all we had to do was to collect this and present it in a sensible way so that people like my mother could actually make sense out of the data. Now, I don't want to talk more about Onboard.se, but what I do want you to think about is that my situation with my mother was actually a personal tragedy. And thanks to that tragedy, I actually could learn a lot of things and focus my energy into doing something creative. I could take that pain and turn it into something useful for my mother, for me, and other people. And unfortunately, I think life is a little bit like that. We get unexpected blows, and we need to deal with them somehow. As a really good entrepreneur, I think you can use this to focus your energy and build your projects that you want to accomplish. My third lesson has to do with believing in yourself. People will usually be skeptical about your ideas, and you really need to be able to stand strong when they say, no, it's not really like that. Soon after Onboard, I was invited to join another team, and that's Prezi, who some of you are familiar with already. This was a very young group of guys based out of Budapest. And when they asked me to help them, I couldn't say no. Why? Well, throughout my life, I had learned that people seem to think that Hungary was a gray piece of concrete. Even worse, when I was in Hungary myself and talked to people, I noticed that many of them seemed to think that the great things came from the West, and that many people seemed to have a hard time believe that Hungary could produce something globally successful. I didn't believe this at all, and I burnt with the desire to prove the world wrong. You know, some people, of course, recommended me not to go, but I was convinced that we could make it work. And this is an important situation where doubts can be really bad for you, right? If I had doubted that it couldn't work, I would have never left, and I wouldn't have the opportunity to have a great time with the Prezi people now. So in summary, please remember the 3 lessons about entrepreneurship. First, treasure the people around you. I had not gotten to work with Onboard had it not been for my trip to Japan. There was no correlation between the two. You know the people that can help you to realize your dreams. Second, you will have unexpected things happening to you in life, and that's okay. It happens to everyone. But use them to focus your energy and to develop yourself. Third, nothing is set in stone. Don't rain on your own parade. Other people will do it. And now as you go out and start your entrepreneurial project, have fun, live life to the fullest, and have a great startup day here in Stockholm.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. I was trying to say for very inspiring, almost 18 minutes. You're going to be with us in like 20 minutes or so on the panel discussing what happens when passion meets capital. Is there a clash? And is that clash, in that case, good or bad? I would like to ask you to draw something on your chair, because the stage here today is a piece of art, and it's like evolving during the day.